A cold wind swept across the city the night everything in Mara Lane's life began to tilt, as if the world itself were warning her that choices made in desperation always leave a shadow. She didn't know it yet, but this was the moment her past, her guilt, and her future would collide. Mara slipped out the back door of Lamar, the polished bistro where she worked nights, hoping for a breath of clean air away from clattering dishes and low jazz. Instead, she froze at the sight of a tall man waiting by the service entrance. His camel coat and meticulous shine of his shoes didn't belong anywhere near deliveries or trash bins. His expression held a cold precision, the gaze of someone accustomed to bending rooms to his will. "You work here," he said, less a question, more a certainty. "Yes," she answered. "Wary, I need 5 minutes of your time." He withdrew a plain envelope and offered it to her. "And this is for you." Mara didn't take it. "What is this?" "There's a man dying here tonight," he explained, tone eerily calm. "Adrian Holt, table by the front window. He's meeting someone, and I want the date ruined." A chill threaded through her. "I'm sorry, what?" "Go in and pretend to be his ex. Create a little scene. Tell him he lied to you, promise something, anything. Make it believable enough to end the date before it begins." His voice carried no malice, only calculation. "Why me?" She managed. "You work here. No one will question your presence. And I'll pay you $3,000. $3,000. Enough to secure her mother's hospital admission, the one the nurse insisted couldn't move forward without a deposit. Her pulse roared in her ears. The envelope felt heavier than its size when she finally took it. The man left without another word. 15 minutes later. Adrian Holt, a man whose reputation as a controlling, brilliant CEO preceded him, sat at the window in charcoal gray. Posture perfectly aligned, expression unreadable. Across from him, a poised woman in a red dress sipped wine with the confidence of someone used to being admired. Mara stood at the entrance, hands trembling. She had shed her apron, removed her name tag, and forced herself to breathe. Then she stepped forward. "Adrian." "Seriously," she said, loud enough for half the room to hear. He looked up, eyes cool, assessing. The woman across from him tensed in confusion. "You told me it wasn't over," Mara choked out, layering her voice with hurt. "You said you were still trying for Noah, and now you're here like none of it mattered." Heads turned. A server stopped mid-step. "You said you needed space," she continued, pushing her courage past its breaking point. "Not her. What am I supposed to tell your son?" The woman in red stiffened. Adrian kept his gaze fixed on Mara. Unreadable. She waited for anger, for denial, for the scene to combust, but he leaned forward slightly, holding her eyes with quiet steadiness. "If you wanted my attention," he murmured, so only she could hear, "you didn't have to do this." Shame scorched through her. She backed away in silence, eyes burning, and fled the restaurant. Outside, the cold bit into her skin as if punishing her. She had taken money to ruin a stranger's night, but the remorse inside her felt like something meant to last far longer. By morning, the video was everywhere. Someone at a neighboring table had recorded the entire staged confrontation and uploaded it with a taunting caption, "Millionaire CEO Adrian Holt confronted by unstable ex during blind date." The clip caught fire. News sites, gossip pages, corporate analysts. Headlines questioned his competence, his integrity, even his parenting. Inside Holt Meridian Technologies, Adrian listened as his executives stuttered through crisis reports. The viral numbers spiked by the hour. Investors panicked. The board demanded a statement. He barely heard them. All he could think of was Noah asking, "Dad, why is everyone talking about you on Mommy's computer?" Across the city, Mara sat shaking on the edge of her bed as the video thumbnail stared back at her. Her own tear-streaked face. Her staged accusation. His stunned silence. She sent emails, left messages, even dropped off an unsigned apology at the company's front desk. No response came. She didn't blame him. Days later, Adrian attempted to attend a government contract signing he had spent 2 years preparing for, only to be ambushed by reporters. Questions pierced at him like thrown knives. Is this a pattern? Is your personal life affecting your leadership? Someone muttered, "Scandal guy." Adrian turned around, walked back to his car, and left without speaking. Mara watched the footage that night. He wasn't being attacked by a fake ex this time. Just a man walking away from a career-defining moment because of what she had done. The weight in her chest felt unbearable. The next morning, she tried once more to leave a letter for him at his company's reception. Security escorted her out before she could even finish explaining. She left the letter anyway and walked away with 2 cooling coffees in her hands. Afterward, she returned to Sparrowbend Cafe, the little shop where she had first noticed Adrian reading alone months earlier. She asked the owner, Victor, if she could help clean for tips. Confused, he allowed it. She wiped every table, polished every brass handle, rearranged sugar caddies the way Adrian had preferred. At 4:42 p.m. the bell chimed. Adrian stepped in. Her breath caught as she shrank behind the counter. He didn't look at her. Not once. He simply ordered his coffee from another barista and left. No cruelty, just indifference, which hurt worse. That night, Mara walked home drenched in rain, unsure whether the wetness on her cheeks came from the storm or from her own breaking heart. She typed an email when she got home. No excuses, no anonymous distance. "This is me, Mara Lane, and I am sorry." She hit send with trembling hands. There was no reply, but something inside her loosened, not forgiveness from him, but the beginning of forgiveness toward herself. Weeks later, while walking home through Maplewood Park, she spotted Adrian laughing with a boy Noah chasing a paper airplane across the grass. It was the first time she had seen Adrian look anything but guarded. Noah ran toward her, beaming, calling, "Miss Mara." She hadn't realized until then that Adrian's son was the same child she once taught in an after-school art program. Adrian approached cautiously. She asked if they could talk 1 minute, no scenes, no email. He agreed. They walked the park path in a heavy silence until she finally told him the truth. About her mother's hospital bill. About the fear. About the envelope. "I'm not saying I was right," she whispered. "I was desperate, and I thought I could live with it. But I can't." Adrian stared ahead for a long moment before speaking quietly. "I wasn't angry," he said. "I was disappointed. Because for a moment, I thought you were real." The words cut deep. "You broke it," he added. "But not all of it." It was the smallest opening, but it shifted something irrevocably between them. In the months that followed, Adrian didn't seek her out, but he didn't ignore her when they crossed paths. He nodded, sometimes held her gaze longer than necessary. Not warmth, just acknowledgement. Permission to stop running from what she had done. Mara wanted to clear the last stain of guilt. So she asked Victor for security footage from the day the mysterious man had approached her. He found it grainy but unmistakable. The envelope. The conversation. The man fleeing quickly afterward. She brought the flash drive to Adrian's home, left it in his palm without stepping inside, and walked away. That night, he watched the footage repeatedly, then whispered, "I knew you weren't that kind of person, but I needed to see it." 2 weeks later, his legal team identified the man, an operative tied to a rival firm competing for the same government contract. The entire scandal had been orchestrated. Adrian's initial instinct was revenge. But instead, he called Mara. When she arrived, he stood by the office window, the city stretching out behind him. "I don't want retaliation," he said. "I want the truth. And I want you to help me tell it." She stepped forward. "I'm ready." What followed was the beginning of a new story neither of them expected. Winter settled in with a quiet ruthlessness the day Mara and Adrian agreed to work together. The truth they intended to uncover held sharp edges, and neither of them pretended it would be easy. Still, something unspoken joined them, a fragile understanding built atop past mistakes and a renewed determination to set things right. Their first step was to present the evidence. Adrian arranged a meeting with the oversight committee overseeing the government project, requesting a closed session. Mara waited outside the chamber, anxiety twisting through her as muffled voices echoed from within. When the doors finally opened, Adrian stepped out, the tension in his shoulders easing for the first time in weeks. "They're taking this seriously," he told her. The footage made the difference. She nodded, relieved yet still trembling. The guilt had shaped her life for so long that she struggled to believe any part of it could now be reversed. In the days that followed, Adrian's name slowly detached from the scandal as investigators uncovered connections between the man who hired Mara and the rival corporation. News outlets corrected earlier assumptions. Analysts walked back their dire predictions. It wasn't vindication overnight, but the slow restoration of a life nearly torn apart. Through all of it, Mara remained close enough to help, but distant enough not to intrude. She typed statements, reviewed evidence, and attended strategy meetings, always speaking in a quiet voice but with unyielding resolve. Adrian never instructed her to stay. He simply accepted that she belonged in the process. One evening, while sorting documents in his office, she noticed him staring at the city skyline with a faraway expression. "You're thinking about Noah," she observed. He didn't deny it. "He asked if I'm still sad. What did you tell him?" "That I'm getting better." His voice softened. "It's true." She looked down at the files, suddenly aware that healing, not strategy, had become the center of the room. As the investigation concluded, the rival company faced sanctions, and Adrian regained the contract that had once slipped from his grasp. The board issued a formal apology for doubting him. But success didn't return him to who he was before something had changed permanently. One late afternoon, after weeks of public silence, he invited Mara to accompany him to a press conference where he planned to disclose everything. Reporters packed the room, flashbulbs bursting as Adrian stepped to the podium. His composure held steady, but his voice carried an honesty that demanded attention. He revealed the manipulation, described the orchestrated provocation, and acknowledged the personal fallout. When a reporter asked how the staged confrontation had affected him most, he hesitated before answering. "It showed me how quickly we judge what we don't understand," he said, "and how easily one moment can cost someone their dignity." Afterward, he exited the stage with Mara walking beside him. No cameras caught them then. The moment belonged only to the two of them. He paused near the hallway leading to the back exit. "You didn't have to stand up there with me," he said quietly. "I wanted to," she replied. "I owed that much. Maybe more." He shook his head. "You don't owe me anything anymore." The words landed gently but firmly, freeing her from the punishment she had carried. She exhaled for what felt like the first real breath in months. In the weeks that followed, they settled into a strange, tentative rhythm. Adrian visited Sparrowbend Cafe more often, and not always for coffee. Some afternoons he stayed long enough to watch Mara sketch designs for the children's art program she hoped to restart. Other times he lingered by the counter, listening to her ideas about restoring city murals or organizing community art walks. One day, Noah bounded into the cafe after school, proudly holding a cardboard model of an airplane. He showed it to Mara first, insisting she help him color the wings. Adrian watched from a nearby table, eyes softening with every stroke she added to the paper. Later, when the boy ran outside to chase imaginary clouds, Adrian approached her. "He trusts you," he said. She looked up, startled. "I never expected that." "He doesn't trust easily." "Neither do I." There was no accusation, only truth. A long pause stretched between them until he finally added, "I'd like us to start over. If you want that." Mara's breath caught. For months, she had imagined what forgiveness might look like, but she hadn't imagined a future beyond it. Yet here he was, offering her not a clean slate but a path carved from honesty. "Yes," she said. "I'd like that." They began slowly. Quiet conversations during walks through the park. Shared lunches at Sparrow Bend. Occasional visits to children's art classes where Noah painted galaxies with the seriousness of a budding astronaut. Their connection didn't burn bright or fast. It grew steady, tender, and deliberate too. People learning to trust again after being broken in ways neither had intended. The city shifted seasons once more, granting them a spring filled with soft rain and emerging blossoms. Mara's mother's health stabilized, thanks to ongoing treatments that no longer threatened to slip out of reach. Adrian's company thrived, but he worked fewer late nights, choosing time with Noah over urgent meetings he once believed couldn't wait. One Saturday morning, they planned a small art showcase in Maplewood Park for the neighborhood children. Colorful canvases hung from twine between trees, fluttering when the breeze passed through. Families gathered, laughter lifting into the open air. Adrian stood beside Mara as Noah proudly presented his painting, a bright sky streaked with red and gold. "It's the day we flew kites," he explained, pointing at the swirling lines. Mara knelt beside him. "It's beautiful." Adrian watched them both, the sunlight catching in his eyes. After Noah ran off to join other children, he turned to her. "You changed things," he said. She shook her head. "You rebuilt your life. I just helped undo what I did." "No, you changed me." His voice carried a sincerity that rooted her to the moment. "And I don't say that lightly." For a heartbeat, neither of them spoke. The branches rustled above as if urging the world around them to keep still. Mara felt the shift then, the subtle but certain realization that their lives had woven together without force or facade. Not out of guilt, not out of obligation, but out of something gentler, steadier. Later that evening, as families packed away supplies and lanterns began glowing along the park path, Adrian reached for her hand. The gesture was quiet, deliberate, and it settled into place like something long meant to be. She didn't pull away. They walked in silence, stepping through the fading light, heading down a path neither would have predicted the day their lives collided in a manufactured scene. But now, every step forward was theirs alone, earned through truth, forged through hardship, and anchored in a hope they no longer feared. And so, in the calm after the storm that once threatened to break them both, Mara Lane and Adrian Holt began the next chapter of a story they were finally ready to claim.